Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm here to show you how we've integrated into a BaaS platform with our tax automation API. So a little bit about why we're doing this is that many of you probably have a full-time W-2 paycheck, and you have the luxury of having your taxes, your healthcare, maybe a 401k being taken out, and you kind of live that net income life. For the self-employed and the growing self-employed population, they have to deal in gross income and have to handle all their back office tasks themselves. So while Lance is catering to the needs of these self-employed individuals, Abound is handling all of the tax infrastructure behind the scenes. And we try to be everywhere we can, where a self-employed individual will be managing their income. So one of those places is a bank account. So a while back, we talked to Unit, we saw this opportunity, and we made this integration where it allowed people to stand up a freelancer checking account, basically. Something that automatically calculated your taxes on all the debits and credits on the ledger, something that paid the government for you, and got all the receipts and all of the tax documents in one secure location. So I'm going to walk you through how we actually integrated into that Unit platform. Before I start, down below here on the bottom left is our developer dashboard. We take a lot of pride in our developer experience. So if you do sign up, you're going to see your keys. We have a lot of different guides and documentation. We have a full Postman collection that I'll be working with today a lot. We have a few SDKs, and more SDKs are coming. We like to do recipes that Julie in the chat box authored herself. And then we have what you come to expect on these developer dashboards, a lot of team management features as well. Alrighty, so we sought out to build this API kind of in the thought process of like, if the IRS was going to build an API, what would it look like? We can all wait 50 years for them to do that, or we can build it today. And so that's what we did. There's 4 main components. Our tax calculation API really gives you the year-to-date breakdown of where that person is on their financial journey through the year. This includes income tax at the federal and state level, and also the self-employment tax. Our second product we have is the tax payment product. So we are the only API solution that allows you to pay, that has 100% coverage of both federal, state, and DC tax payments. So if you want to remit an estimated tax payment to any of those on a modern RESTful API, you can do that through us. Our third product is a transaction prediction product. This is really helpful for those self-employed people who are on Unit, who are possibly doing both their personal finances and their business finances in the same bank account. So we can go and look through all those transactions and separate your personal and business life. So we can tell the difference between a check from grandma from your birthday, or is that a check being paid for an invoice you sent out? Or is your expense deductible? And if so, what category it goes into? And we'll kind of dive into that a little bit later. And then the final product is our form generation. So we handle 100% coverage, federal and state, for 1099 form submission, as well as some of the end of year forms for the self-employed individuals like the Schedule C. Alrighty, cool. So the first, where this journey usually starts is opening an account on Unit. So if Lance was to open up one of these bank accounts on Unit, we step in with our integration and we grab the user's information and register them on our tax ledger. So I have to say that Unit has some of the best documentations out there, and they really thought through their webhooks, and that really made this integration what it is today. But I'll show you on the Abound side exactly what's happening here. So when Lance opens an account on Unit, we go ahead and create a user. So that's what I'm showing you here on the right-hand side. We go ahead and get that user. We get all this information from the KYC information that Lance used to open that account. So from a developer standpoint, they're not having to send the same KYC information to multiple vendors. We automatically do it. And if the fintech doesn't really want to handle the SSN a lot or store it themselves, we've built this way where they can pass that information in directly to us. And we obviously need that to make tax payments on the behalf of the self-employed user. Outside of registering a user, we also create a payment method. And this is the account and routing number on that bank account we created at Unit. So this is all done automatically as well. The account and routing number is passed to us behind the scenes. And then we go ahead and have a payment method ID with that as well. So you've opened up the account and you're now registered in Abound without having to lift any fingers. The next thing is to automate taxes. So as these debits and credits are going across the bank ledger, they are being passed to to Abound as well. And we're on the fly calculating the taxes. So what I'll do is, using this user ID, I will go ahead and add incomes and expenses via this Postman collection. And what we'll see on the left-hand side is the webhooks coming through for notifying Lance that the taxes have been updated for that individual. So here I have a client invoice paid, or maybe a cash out from Lyft. I go ahead and send that. Awesome. Looks like we have roughly about $1,500 in income. Cool. I'll go to my taxes. We'll see the webhook going in that my taxes are updated. Let's go look at them. So I go and I retrieve the taxes for that year. And sure enough, the 1099 income I have is about $1,500. And we see the full breakdown of all the tax calculations, from effective and marginal rates to breaking down the Medicare portion, your total taxes. If you had a W-2 job as well, for those Airbnb hosts or those side hustlers, you can enter your W-2 income and we can factor that in as well. We start pretty conservative, but you can dial into those taxes given us the filing state and filing status. Same thing on debits. So if we go to expenses, and let's say we add a TurboTax filing fee, or we go to the Apple Store and make a purchase, we go ahead and send this here. And what we see here is that I've told our API that this is a business transaction with a tax category of commission and fees. This Apple Store purchase came through, and our system predicted that this was actually a personal expense, and I should not be deducting it from my taxes. So that's the kind of that's the transaction predictions in action, where it's saying, hey, you may not be able to deduct this, and then obviously there's no tax category that goes along with a personal expense. Let's go back and check our taxes. We got another webhook. So let me do that. And we should start seeing, oh, sorry, wrong one. There we go. And so now we start seeing the expense deductions line into my tax breakdown as well. So we are in real time automatically calculating taxes on every debit and credit on the unit bank ledger, and then passing those webhooks to Lance to pull down the latest and greatest tax calculation. So the next thing is automating tax withholding. So when a payment event hits Lance, they need to set aside that money for taxes. This is something that the ADPs of the world are doing for the W-2ers in the crowd, but Lance had to build that themselves. So the way they know how much to set aside in taxes is they go and they pull the latest tax calculation, and they look at that smart tax rate. This is a tax rate that we come up with, and it's a recommendation of how much to set aside on every single paycheck. So if it's a cash out from Lyft, or an invoice being paid, or a real estate commission, you would want to take that earnings, multiply it by that rate, and then use the unit API to move those funds from a main account to a tax withholding account, both inside a unit. So we'll assume that money has been moved over on the Lance side. And the last part of it is actually remitting the money that you've been withholding for the whole quarter on time to avoid penalties to both the IRS and state tax authorities. So that goes into our tax payment API. So if I open that one up, what I can do is I can create a payment for those out there. In 16 days, you owe one on April 15th. So let's say I'm going to make a $887 payment for Q1 of this year to the IRS. Using that same payment method that Unit and Abound's integration automatically created for us. So I can go ahead and send, and there you go. It is in a status of created. Now in our sandbox environment, we have, we're able to do a lot of different kind of testing if you want to kind of build up a more predictable testing scheme. So you can pass in things like 222 to force a done status. And then you can also pass in stuff like 111 to force a pending status. But the life cycle of a tax payment goes from creating to pending to done. Typical errors we see if like a legal name doesn't match a SSN, for example. And we do those checks both for tax payments and for form filing to make sure we're not sending incorrect information that could result in fees and penalties for the people doing those actions as well. Yeah, so that's it. So basically we have a module sitting right on top of Unit that looks at all the debits and credits coming in, and we're automating the creation of things on our tax ledger, ultimately to automate the tax flows to these tax entities. Thank you very much.